She's probably done something that has made your conference experience better. She's the type of person that's always running around and helping out in various different ways, including this morning, where she had about an hour notice to fill in and give a talk to you all. As well as all those things, Nikoleta is a fantastic mathematician, Python programmer, and has helped enormously in various ways throughout the community, for example, with DjangoCon at this conference. Sorry, with Django Girls at this conference. So let's all welcome Nikoleta.
Hello and good morning. I'm not going to be standing here because I feel like you can't see me behind the podium, so I'll be standing here with the microphone. I hope that's okay. Good morning, everyone. I'll be talking to you today about the fallacy of meritocracy, but I'd like to give you a bit of an introduction of who I am first. Firstly, like Vince said, I am a mathematician. I am a PhD student. Trying to be a mathematician at Cardiff University, and I'm now entering my final year, so please don't ask me how my thesis is going. Yesterday we had a talk about research software development, and they very briefly talked about the Software Sustainability Institute. I am actually a fellow at the Software Sustainability Institute. I am a volunteer of PyCon UK. I highly recommend you becoming a volunteer. It's fantastic, it's fun. And being a mixer or even recording with a camera can be fantastic. And I'm also now been running for 3 years the Django Girls workshop that took place here on Saturday. So that's who I am. And like I said, I'll be talking to you a little bit about the fallacy of meritocracy. But what is meritocracy? Throughout my talk, I'll have these little definitions, not because I believe you don't know the definitions of these words, but this gives us a good line. That's what I mean, and you know this is what I mean. So what is meritocracy? It's actually a combination of two Greek words. I am Greek, which is merit and kratos. And pretty much what it is the government or the holding of power by people selected according to merit. So what we believe is if in your life you do well, it's because you deserve it and you work harder from other people. So the other people didn't do well, it does because they didn't work as hard, because we're all being judged on merit, on how good we are. And things like race, where you're from, and gender do not affect that. It's just based on how hard you work. And a lot of people talk about meritocracy. A lot of the world leaders talk about meritocracy, and that the world that we live in today is based on this system. For example, Donald Trump and Theresa May have both spoken about meritocracy. But my question is, do we live in a meritocratic system? And do we really want to live in a meritocratic system? So let's assume that we do live in a meritocratic system and everyone is judged based on the merit. There are some indications in our world that we live today that should really, send some signals. For example, Mariam was the first woman to win the Fields Medal in mathematics. So if this is a meritocratic system, it means that Mariam was the first woman because she was the first woman to work hard enough to get the medal, and the other women before her did not, or were not really good mathematicians. Another example is that there are only 32 black actors, musicians, writers, producers, sound mixers, and other artists that have won an Oscar. And this is not just about actors. Everyone that has to do anything with the film industry that are black have only won 32 Oscars. So if we do live in a meritocratic system, why these things happen? And that's what I would like to talk to you a little bit about today. And the things that we do not, the things that are bad, and the things that do not work in a meritocratic system. The first one is equality versus equity. So when we talk about equality, we say that is the state of being equal, especially in status or opportunities. So we all have equal opportunities to something. But actually, equity is the quality of being fair and impartial. So let's give an example. Let's say that I want to choose a shape that is going to run a race for me. This is quite fair, right? Both shapes are going to start from the same starting line, and I'm going to choose the shape that's going to go first to the finishing line. Very straightforward. So this is equal. But our world is not always like this. So what happens in our world is sometimes that the road that both of us have to run is not the same, is not equal for both shapes. So for example, this shape now does not exactly fit in a road that is built for triangles, and that shape is probably going to come last. Oh, I nudged the thing. Is it back? So the second thing is unconscious biases. So in the world that we live in today, we have unconscious bias. And what is an unconscious bias? An unconscious bias is learned stereotypes that are automatic and intentionally deeply engraved. But what's worse is that they are able to influence our behavior. So now unconscious biases are bad, but we should not be ashamed. You should not be ashamed if you're unconsciously biased, because we all are, in a way. I know that I am unconsciously biased. So when I walk into a class with my students, and my students are males, I'm more likely to say, hey guys, did you watch a basketball game on the weekend? When I walk into a room with female students, I'm more likely to say, did you have fun? On the weekend, did you go out? So we're all unconsciously biased in one way or another, but what is important is what we do with unconscious biases. There's a really nice blog post written by my PhD supervisor, Dr. Vincent Knight, that talks about unconsciously biased using game theory and how we can model it using mathematics. And that brings me to a recent project that I will be working on with my PhD supervisor, which is Homophily, which is on homophily. Homophily is one form of a conscious bias, and what homophily affects is that we have the tendency to like people that look like us. So when I go to a conference, I'm very likely to meet other Greek people, because for me it's very easy to speak in my language, it's very easy to talk to people that I have the same culture with. But sometimes we make decisions based on who we're going to hang out and who we're going to interact more because of that homophily effect, because we feel safer, because it's easier. But that effect can be a negative effect, and can have negative effects. And that brings me to this, which is a research work that we are starting with my supervisor, which is the effect of homophily in hierarchical systems. Now, if you're going to hang out, if you're going to hang out with another person, that is fine. But what happens when we have promotion systems? What happens when we have organizations that the people that they take into the company or the people that they get promoted are affected because of the homophily effect? And that's actually what we're going to study. So, for example, this is an organization. This is Google, let's say. And the person on top is a person of type of blue, and they are the more senior person in the organization. And what happens here are the people that come into the company, and then you get promoted. If you get promoted, you go to the second layer, and then if the person on the top leaves, then someone else has to replace them. And what we're doing is we're saying, okay, let's say that everyone has the same merit, right? You're all as good, but the person who's going to get promoted is actually going to be affected, but who are the people that are on top of them? So, for example, we are modeling the homophily effect by saying, okay, if there are two blue entities on the second layer, they're more likely to choose a blue entity to get promoted. And that is probabilistic, so there's just a bigger probability of a blue entity to be selected. And what we can see, it happens, so if I go back here, this works, fantastic. This is a GIF. This is a very early stages, right? We'll make the GIF better. So what you're going to see is like the people who are on top are blue. And slowly, all this system is going to be turned out to be blue. Because again, people are going to start taking people that look like them. And this can happen in large organizations, and this is exactly what we want to monitor. Now, the thing that we're doing right now is that all these people have the same merit. But what we're going to do slowly is we're going to start introducing that each individual has a different merit. So what we're hoping to prove, but an interesting result would be to see that everybody turns blue, that the whole system has less merit than it would have if there were some red individuals in the organization. So yes, we're currently working on it. This is not done work just yet. Because like I said, I am entering the last year of my PhD, so I should work on that first. And what is the problem with meritocracy? What I believe actually is the problem with meritocracy in a simple sentence is that this is a mathematical function, f, and we are being what's the word I'm looking for? Evaluated, thank you. So we're being evaluated on on F. So all of us are a little chi there, so we're going, we're being evaluated. But the thing that meritocracy doesn't get right is that there's not just one function that can evaluate every single person in this room. Because we are different, we have different backgrounds, we have different struggles in our lives. So this doesn't work because we all need a little special F function to evaluate each one of us. And that's what I believe is wrong with meritocracy. So answers. So these answers are not scientific facts, are just answers that I believe are true. So how can we fight, how can we make the meritocratic system that we live in a bit better? Number one, be aware of your unconscious biases. Like I said, I have some, we're probably all guilty of having one, and it's fine. But it's fine if we know that we have them and we're actually trying to get better and make decisions not based on our biases. Secondly, be an ally. And what do I mean by that? Is find a person that you believe struggle because of who they are, because of what they are, and be an ally to them. And be an ally to them means sometimes all you have to do is listen, or sometimes what you have to do is stand up and say no. For example, if you're not a woman and they'll ask you to give a talk on women and mathematics and everyone else is not a woman, then maybe you could have said, no, I don't think I'm the right person to give a talk on this topic. I wouldn't give a talk on physics because I am a scientist. So be an ally. And lastly, don't be lazy. So all these things are great, and we all talk about how we're trying to fix the community, but they take time, and they take time and effort from our daily lives. So don't be lazy, try. It's not easy to try and change things, of course. And if nothing of those work, well, maybe we can do this. So those of you who don't know, Thanos is a villain from the Marvel cinematic universe, and he had a very specific solution to the problem of humanity. No humanity, but that was he could just snap his fingers and destroy half of the population of the universe and let the other half rebuild. So maybe that will be the solution. If you're interested in what I've spoken about and you would like to keep following the work because it's now going to be done, please follow me or my PhD supervisor. We're probably going to tweet about it at some point. And this was not a scheduled talk, so I do hope you enjoyed it. But actually, my scheduled talk that I'll be talking about this topic in more detail is going to be in Pike and Balkan this year. Is on the 3rd of October to the 5th of October in Belgrade, Serbia. I've never been to Serbia before, so I'm really looking forward to it. If anyone has any tips, I'm very, very glad to take them. And actually, I am one of the keynote speakers. This year, there are no many tickets left, but if you want to keep an eye on the event, maybe next year, if you would like to go, it's fantastic. And if you give a talk, they make you a profile, and you have a little flag next to your name, which I think is the cutest little thing I've ever seen. And you can even click, and the picture is still there. It's fantastic. So yes, that was the talk. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikoleta, and thank you again for stepping in to give that talk. Does anyone have any questions for Nikoleta? And just a reminder that a question is a question. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Hi. That was very interesting. Thank you. How do you apply weighting factors on your function to optimize the selection process?
So right now, selection function would be the sum of the merits, let's say. So if a company believes that the way to be most efficient, to get the most out of it, would be each individual, it would be somehow the sum of the merits in some way. But we're not actually sure about that yet. There is something that I've spoken about with my supervisors about that objective function. Is it going to be just the sum of merits? Do we include something to, for example, so diversity or things like that? So I am not sure 100% yet is the answer. But thank you, thank you.
You were talking about, I can't remember what the word is and I don't want to say the wrong word, the tendency to be attracted to people who are similar to you. In, say, a conference or something, what would you suggest to try and avoid that? Because you seem to make it clear that that might be something you would want to avoid.
That's a really good question. Thank you, Q. I know it's easy to say, but maybe step out of your comfort zone. Right? Like I said, it's very easy for me to find other Greek people and just talk to them, but maybe make an effort to see other people, that they're not exactly like me, and I can join the conversation and talk to them. And just, when you walk down the conference, just smile and say hi and good morning to people, and that will give you, and just say that to everyone, no people that you think you can hang out with. Just walk down and smile and say hi, and that will give you the first step to a conversation.
I have a question myself. Could you perhaps just briefly say what type of mathematical techniques you're using to do this?
Yes, we are using something called Markovian modeling. So each picture of the organization is going to be a state, let's say. And then we're looking at, so at each state, you'll say, okay, there's one person on the top layer, the two people on the second layer, and we can keep a track of what type each person also is, and that is a state, is a picture of our system. And then what we can do, what we know is that people are leaving with a specific rate, either because they're being, because they leave the company, or either because they get retired. And so that is one rate that the system changes. There are other changes, such as somebody will get promoted. So once you have a picture, you have a probability of how this state is going to change based on what happens, and that's how we model the system from beginning to end.
Are there any other questions for Nikoleta? Okay, in which case, let's thank her once again for stepping in, for giving a great talk. Thank you, Nikoleta.
Thank you very much. Thank you.